thank you all for joining us this morning. Really excited to talk to you today about how to transform your communications with Microsoft Teams. We're going to be delving into all of the back-end features so you can have a full analysis before you move over. If there's any new people today, just a quick overview at who CSG are. So we're a trusted IT partner to around 400 SMEs. We are helping people solve their issues through technology and innovative ideas using our partnerships. So the longest IT companies in Wales and the Southwest. We have offices in Bridgend, Bristol and Exeter. We offer everything from IT services to cloud, telephony, IT support and of course cybersecurity. And we're obviously accredited with Sophos, Microsoft, Datto, HP and Gamma. And today we are really lucky to be joined by Matthew from Gamma. Here's just a quick overview of the evolution of Microsoft Teams. There's an increase in demand for people to use Microsoft Teams and move to a secure cloud phone system. So here we've got some really cool stats. So in 320 million Microsoft Teams users worldwide. This is really important as well because it does show that if your customers are using Teams and if your clients are using Teams, you yourself using this is a good way to keep that communication with them as well. So 1 billion monthly one-on-one Teams calls, which is a staggering figure. 80 million Teams phone active users, and 91% out of the Fortune 100 companies use Teams phone. And I think that really says it for itself, doesn't it? How great it is. We have some current customers who are using Teams phone and they are really happy with the service. So I'd love to share one for you now. So this is Too Good to Waste and they're an ethical house clearance service. And they were basically saying how communications is very important because they've got different sites and they got to keep the communications up throughout their employees and their customers. So breaking free from that traditional ITSN was very important for them. So Microsoft Teams have allowed them to grow in sync with their systems and it doesn't overload the call system as well. They can take as many calls as they need and there isn't any issues with that. So they've allowed themselves to have better customer engagement. And this is really, really important, especially in the modern day now where we can find the answer, we can find a solution instantly with our phone. If you're not reaching your customers that quickly, then you're going to lose the customer to your competitor. So very, very important parts. Cloud system as well. The security levels that come with it have really made Too Good to Waste feel they've hit that mark as well with the security aspect. And thank you so much for listening to our intro. We're going to now pass you over to Matthew McLeod. Thank you very much, Matthew.
Thank you very much, Eve. Good morning, everyone. As you said, my name is Matthew. I work at Gamma in our Microsoft Voice team. I've worked at Gamma for 6 years, so I've been talking about these Microsoft Voice products for quite some time now. Today, I'm going to start by just giving you a bit around the evolution of Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams as a platform started in 2017, which is the growth of a pretty new way of communicating. And at that time, Microsoft then gave a free license to people with some restricted capabilities in 2018 that increased usage. And by 2019, there was already 13 million people using Microsoft Teams. In 2019, it was a lot of a new system. There was not a huge amount of uptake in the UK as such, but since then, it has gone on quite a journey. The journey has not only come in the amount of users, I think we mentioned before, 320 million global active users was what was reported in Q2 this year. Now it will probably be even more. But the reason why that usage has increased so much is due to the enhancements and features, not only on the Teams platform for internal communication, but also on the communication aspects for external communication through Teams Phone that we're going to focus on today. Hopefully today I'll give you an insight into some of the new features. If any of you have looked at this even a year ago, even 6 months ago, there's new features coming all the time, which is why Teams Phone is quite an exciting proposition for UK businesses. I guess the part that changed Teams was when we started doing handshakes a bit like this. Ultimately, the way in which we work, where we work, and how we work changed due to the COVID pandemic. And that's where Teams saw its real growth as a platform, more and more businesses had to start to think about hybrid working, think about entirely remote workforces, and that's where Teams really becomes a beneficiary for UK businesses. That ability to work wherever you are, as long as you have an internet connection, is absolutely paramount. And that's how we're going to talk about how we can embrace that Teams system that some of you may use today, and how we can embrace the phone system capabilities within that. And I guess it becomes at the heart of many businesses. Some of you may use it a little bit, some of you may use it a lot. Some of you may use it for chat, file sharing. Some of you may even use it for the phone, the external phone calling today. But ultimately, it is just intertwined into many businesses. And as we start to move into this AI world, that ultimately is where Teams will continue to become a more clever, more well-rounded solution for you to use. I guess the key driving factors to Teams Phone, which we're going to talk about today, one is productivity. One of the biggest value adds of Teams is that it can make your workforce more productive. It enhances by using one single platform for communication. You're no longer using Teams to message internally or call internally, and then using your phone system to call externally to customers via landlines and mobiles. You can do it all in one single platform, enhancing productivity across your business, not to mention all the other capabilities within Teams that you can utilize. Familiarity, I don't think I need to go into too much detail around that. Lots of people have used this, whether this be for online communication and Zoom's quizzes, or whether it being their work capacity. Teams is a familiar platform, which means if you adopt the Teams Phone capability with Operator Connect, you don't have to train staff in how to use it as much as you would with a new system. So that's where there's a real benefit with that Teams Phone and Teams as a platform. One of the forgotten parts, which some of you on this call may resonate with, is the management efficiency. Teams Admin Center becomes the management portal for not only your Teams meeting policies, your chat policies, but actually your whole phone system can be configured in the Teams Admin Center. So that management efficiency becomes a lot more smoother, a lot more streamlined for yourselves, and saves you some time and make your day-to-day jobs much easier. And finally, value. Many of you will already have existing Microsoft licensing. By enhancing the Teams Phone capability and enhancing your licensing, you will only get a better experience in that Teams platform. So that's some of the key reasons that, for myself, we've seen Teams Phone adoption across UK businesses today. We're now going to talk more into the product. So that's kind of a bit around the market, what we've seen changing, and how we've seen the market evolve since Teams' launch in 2017. Ultimately, today we're going to talk about how you can voice enable Microsoft Teams with a product called Operator Connect. If any of you have not heard of Operator Connect, don't worry. It has been around since the end of 2021, which seems a long time ago, and you might think, why am I saying it's a fairly new product? Really, in 2021, September 2021, it was very small scale. Since then, it has really grown, and more businesses have started to adopt this. Probably since the start of 2023, so the start of last year, is when it really started to take shape, and more people adopt it. But Operator Connect is ultimately just voice enabling Teams. It's making Teams a phone system for you. So, just to kind of give you a bit of a summarization of what Operator Connect is. Operator Connect is ultimately an evolution of a product called direct routing. Some of you may have heard of direct routing. Direct routing was ultimately the way in which most telephony providers across the UK and the globe voice enabled Teams. The problem that had for Microsoft is they had no kind of regulation around who was doing it, how they were doing it, and where they were doing it. So Microsoft basically decided we need to make a framework, a scheme where we can absolutely regulate and certify who voice enables their platform. They did so, and they created this program called Operator Connect, the Operator Excellence Program. And Gamma are one of those providers. And through our partnership with CSG, we are able to offer that to you guys today. Ultimately, in a nutshell, we're voice enabling Teams in a certified way, with ultimately certified interconnects between the voice network and Microsoft to ensure that you get full quality of service on all of your voice calls, and ensuring that we have a shared SLA with Microsoft because we are in that strategic partnership via their program. So it's all around quality enhancements. It's all around the service enhancements that we can get because we are on that framework and built our network in a certain way to adhere to their regulations. I would also highlight, if you did ever want more detail, reach out to Ricky and Eve, and we can absolutely provide you with more detail around the network, etc. Ultimately, it enables your Teams platform to be voice enabled, and all of your DDIs are able to be managed in that Teams Admin Center to enable that management efficiency where you can configure the whole phone system in that interface. So, a few of the key bits that CSG are able to offer you is things like inclusive bundled minutes. So, the Operator Connect is actually the ability to make that external PSTN call to landlines and mobiles from Teams. But actually, it goes one step further. CSG will provide you with a fully managed service, provisioning, adds, moves and changes, and any support that you need through your ongoing contract. So that is something that is really valuable, and that's where CSG really come into their own as a service provider. Ultimately, part of the solution, is providing voice enablement to Teams. One of the big things that is really crucial to highlight is that thing in the bottom left, SIP Trunk Call Manager. That probably means absolutely nothing to you guys on the call, but ultimately what SIP Trunk Call Manager is a disaster recovery platform. So we ensure that we have a separate platform that gives you redundancy should Teams ever have an issue. Touch wood, it does not, and we never want that to happen, but ultimately if it does, we absolutely have you covered, and that platform can redirect calls to alternative destinations. Can offer free trials, etc. And if any of you have 0308 numbers, we can actually provide it. But in a nutshell, Operator Connect is building that phone system inside of Teams and enabling you to call outbound and receive incoming calls from landlines and mobiles in a certified manner via Teams. So, features and functionality. I'm going to whistle through this slide because I'm going to show you in action very shortly. The only thing I want to address here is I've picked out some features and placed them on the screen in front of you. What I would say, if you looked at the feature set 4 years ago, even 2 years ago, it would be completely different. Microsoft's research and development is enormous, and these features that are embedded within the platform are constantly evolving, and we're seeing new features come all the time. So it really is something that changes, evolves, and hopefully helps you evolve moving forward as a business as we progress. So, just in a nutshell, how it works. Microsoft licensing is absolutely required. So I'm just going to go through a quick run through. Obviously, appreciate that many of you on the call will have different licensing today, but ultimately, if you need any more detail around it, speak to the guys at CSG and they can absolutely help you out on that front. But Microsoft 365 license, Office 365 license, whether you have Business Basic, Standard, Business Premium, or even if you're on those enterprise licenses, E1s, E3s, or anything else that I haven't mentioned, that as long as you have Teams access, you're on to a winner. The next phase is actually upgrading that licensing by enabling something called Teams Phone Standard License. And that license is what gives you the phone system capability. So that dial pad, the voicemail, the hunt groups, the call queues, the auto attendance, all those features that you traditionally need as a phone system today. And then the third bit is the Operator Connect, and that's your calls and lines. That's your minutes bundles. That's the ability to actually traverse calls out via the PSTN network. If you didn't have any one of those individual segments, let's be honest, your phone system isn't going to work and your customers aren't going to be very happy. But ultimately, when you have those all three together, you create voice enablement to Microsoft Teams in a certified manner. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly show you a demonstration of the user interface. So, what I'm going to do is just quickly share back my screen and show you my Teams environment. So here it is. Hopefully it looks very similar to your existing environments, maybe with a few different changes for those of you that haven't moved into Teams Phone yet or haven't looked at that in the past. Ultimately, the biggest change you'll see is the addition of this dial pad. You can type any contact internally, so I can search for Adele, who is one of my colleagues, if I wish. And also, I can search for any mobile number. So I can type in any mobile number I wish and make a call outbound in that fashion. I've got the dial pad. I can type the digits without using the dial pad, but I just use my keypad on the laptop. It's just as easy. You also get your number. So this isn't the number associated to my team. So I'll have my own dedicated DDI. If I called Ricky, it would show this number on Ricky's device, and he would know it was me calling. But if, for example, I wanted to call as a different number, so say I was part of the sales team or the ticket box office team, I could present out the ticket box office number. So I can change the number that I present outbound when making every call. So if I'm calling someone I know, I might present my own number. But if I'm calling to a new client, possibly using the business name, I could absolutely do that as well in there. That might have give you a clue where I'm originally from, despite living in Cardiff. That might give you a clue. But ultimately, what I would say here is you've got call history here. You've got the ability to see missed calls, incoming calls, outgoing calls. You can see all of that. Voicemail, if I click on that, the nice thing about voicemail is I can listen to the voicemail like I would normally do, but also I can read the voicemail. What we all do, the amount of times we have voicemails which say, can you give me a call back? Rather than having to waste our time listening to it, I can just give it a quick read and give that call back around that. You've also got things like speed dial, so any contacts you're ringing on a regular occurrence, key customers, key suppliers, the sandwich van, whatever it may be, you can make it quick and easy for you to dial those numbers without having to type their name or number in that box. You've also got your contacts list, so any contacts you can add in there, you can absolutely do so, and you can call those numbers as and when you see fit and as and when you need, and build that contacts list for yourself in there. So in a nutshell, nice and user friendly. You'll hopefully see that it's not too dissimilar to what you may be using today. You've also got different settings just for anyone who's possibly managing the IT or in charge of kind of controlling and manage what capabilities each user has. When I go into settings, whatever settings I see here will depend on what I was given by the admin. So anyone with the Teams admin access would decipher what access you have within here. I've been given a lot of functionality in truth because I'm the admin and I'm the user. So you choose what happens if someone rings for 30 seconds. Well, I want it to go to voicemail, but I could send it to someone else. I could send it to other people, other groups if I wish. Different ringtones for forwarded calls rather than direct calls. You can record your voicemail message. One of the bits that I really like that is often overlooked is we're looking at the Teams ecosystem here. In Teams, we can integrate with other Microsoft applications. So if you had your automatic replies on, say I was on holiday till the 1st of January, I wish, but never mind. If I click tick, then I could ultimately put in here, are you through to Matthew in the sales team? Apology, I'm on annual leave. You'll now be forwarded to the internal sales team. So it's just that able to integrate with that automatic replies that you have in Outlook and put that into your voicemail as well. There's lots of other things that you can do. If you do want more detail around it, please do reach out to Ricky and the team there. These little blue parts here, I'll just make reference to these. This is where if you wanted to do some sort of team leader role, so say you had a team leader of the accounts team, what they could do is they could have ad hoc permissions to make a change to the welcome greeting. You don't have to grant this, but you can. So if, say, for example, the accounts team had someone calling sick on Monday, they may say, welcome to fan support. Your calls may be delayed due to staff sickness. So it's where you can have the ability to make ad hoc changes as a team leader, as what we call an authorized user within there. I will make a call, don't worry, I'm not going to evade that part. The last thing I want to show you just before I make a call is this Teams area. Some of you may use the Teams channels area today for for departments. If I just look at this ticket team, you will use posts, you may use file sharing to collaborate as a department, as a group. But what also is enabled is this calls area. This is where you can see ultimately all of the calls, ingoing, outgoing, and also voicemail. So this is your shared voicemail. So if, for example, I was the accounts team again, or the ticket team, we'll take the example on the screen. If I was the ticket team and someone called at midnight, nobody in my team is working, they could then it might autofill to a voicemail. All of these voicemails will be accessible to everyone in that team, in that ticket team. So it's a collaborative area for calling. Also, that can go to your Outlook inboxes if you wish as well, in there. You've got the dial pad, so you can make calls in here if you wish. And also, if you wish to, you can actually give your agents more control and flexibility to toggle in and out when using this. So if they're going for lunch, they could toggle out and they would not receive calls to that call queue hunt group that they're part of. So that's just a bit around how you can take some advancements to just making calls and receiving calls individually. That's where you can start to bring in those teams and start to embrace the wider function. So just going to load up my mobile device. I'm just using my my personal mobile here. I'm just going to make a call, and it's just called in, and it just said the announcement. So it's just about a call, and you can see I've called our box office number. It's brought up my details. It's brought up my the saved item in my contacts list. I can then click accept. When I'm in the call, you will see I'm now on the call. I've got it muted just so I don't hear myself 100 times over. If I was calling a main business number and they had press 1 for this, press 2 for this, I can use the dial pad up here to do so. I could put the customer on hold. I might need to ask a colleague a question. I can put them on hold and wait for them to do so. All of that hold music is customizable. You can change it between different users, different departments. You can absolutely do whatever you wish there. Also, you've got the transfer option. So the transfer option gives you 2 pieces of functionality. So you can do the blind transfer. So that's where Ricky has called me up and he wants to speak to Eve. And I just say, click transfers, search Eve, and then transfer that call through. Nice and easy. If Eve didn't answer, it would go to her overflow that might be a voicemail. That's the standard. The alternative is that consultant transfer. So this might be where somebody might be asking a specific question, or might have, might need them to run through a large case that may take up some time. So I might want to speak to Eve and say, Ricky's on the phone asking about this. Do you have enough time to talk about this? Or shall I suggest I'll call him back? So we can consult and transfer. If I just show you this consult and transfer here, so it's just put that calling party on hold. I can then search for anyone in my organization. So just imagine they wanted to speak to Adele. I can click on Adele. And what's really good with Teams, and this is something that is obviously, really good, is the presence. So here in this circle, we've got that cross. That cross is actually showing that she's offline. So in this scenario, we probably wouldn't want to transfer that call to her. What we can do is, if they were online, you'd be able to see the green, yellow, and red of Teams. If they were green, we might choose to call them, and that'll be where I'd speak to Adele and give her a bit of information. If she was free, I could transfer the call, and I would transfer using this transfer button up here, which says resume, which would train to transfer. If she was red or yellow, we could actually use the chat function. So this is where we're bringing all of that kind of UCAS functionality of both calling and chat into one. So you'll see the presence, and you can decipher what would be the best way to consult Adele before we actually transfer that call. So how best to give her a warning. And that's where the presence of Teams can really work effectively, especially when you're working, not only just in office environments, but actually home working. When people are at home, you can start to understand if people are busy, if people are free. So you can see here I'm showing as red because I'm on a call, so I'm not going to be able to answer that call. You've also got the way of merging calls if you wish. You can add extra participants to make it a three-way call. You can do that there and just invite someone in. You've also got more. So in more, you've got the ability to do various settings. You've got the record and transcribe in Teams if you wish to use that. The key thing with the record and transcribe built within Teams is that is convenience recording. That is where me as an agent would always have to click start to start the recording. What I will talk about later in the value add section is how we can add compliance recording where it automatically invokes the call recording. So hold that thought and I'll get onto that very soon around that. But the setting that I really want to show you here is park call. So this is another way that you can transfer calls around a business. Where I see this a real fit is if any of you have one single person answering calls, possibly someone in a environment of a possibly receptionist role. If I click park call here, this will put the calling party on hold. So they will hear that hold music. And you can see here, it's giving me a code. Number 11, pretty nice and straightforward. I can't copy it if I'm really lazy, but it's only 2 digits, but just in case I forget. Me as that initial receptionist who answered that call will then see the call sat here. So I can put that call on hold. I can see they're waiting there. I can see I've got call park on hold. I could have 2 or 3 calls in there just on hold, waiting for those people to be available. What I could do is I could use the system and go to the chat function. I could message possibly Alex and say, call park slot 11. If they're in call park slot 11, and that person was maybe at the toilet, or I could see they were talking to someone, they weren't free to take that call, they could then be given that code. That person who I've given that code to would then just go to this park call section on their device, whether that be on their mobile app, whether that be on their desktop app, whether that be on the web browser, which is what I'm using today. They would go into here and put 11 and they would click pick up. And once they do that, it will then connect them back to the caller and they will be able to receive the call. So now all I have to do when I'm ready is just click resume. And then I've now taken that call as that new agent. I'm in the call. So that's another way of how we can navigate around transferring calls around the business there. So that is the end of the user demonstration of how we use the platform. The only thing I'll just make reference to is the Teams Admin Center, just so you're aware. In this voice section, you will see all of your phone numbers. So you can see all of your phone numbers in one single pane of glass, who they're assigned to, whether that's users, whether that's auto attendance call queues. You can see all of that within there. You then configure the whole phone system in this section here. So all the policies, auto attendance call queues, you can absolutely do that as and when you see fit around that. If you want more detail around the Teams Admin Center, what you can do, how you can configure things, please do reach out to Ricky and Eve. Please do just mention in the chat that you wish to have an additional demo, and we can absolutely jump on and show you what can be configured in that area. If I'm honest, you can pretty much do, well, I'd like to imagine you can do most of what you have today in this, because it is quite a feature-rich phone system today. So hopefully that gave you a good insight into what it does, what it looks like, and just how seamless it actually is to go from the Teams interface as an internal communication platform to an external communication platform. So what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to take you from what we call a voice system to what I like to refer to as a voice solution. So how you can add additional value, additional capabilities to the Teams voice system with Operator Connect to enhance the capabilities. What we're going to look at is something called Service Suite, which incorporates a lot of different features. We've already referred to the Microsoft licensing that some of you already have, and if you wish to go down this route, may need to upgrade. Things like hardware. So we all think of Teams as this desktop application that we use on our laptops, on our desktops. Actually, Teams can be used on a mobile app, but actually we can provide hardware. So you can use handsets, Yearling, Polycom devices that you can ultimately use and call, type the buttons, slam down when you finish the call. You can absolutely do that on the Teams system. We're going to go through reporting, call analytics, the different capabilities available to bolster that Teams voice proposition. The one that I'm going to show you first is the one that I mentioned before, the disaster recovery platform that gives you that business continuity. You do get some level of reporting in here, and you also get this top left divert when network error. And that's the place where if your Teams was down, it would redivert your call and you'd still give your customer good customer experience. I won't go too much into that area, but that is something that CSG will be able to support you with and provide you with to ensure ultimately the optimal customer experience in all scenarios. Pardon. So what I'm going to talk you through now is the hardware element. So ultimately, as I just mentioned, we can ultimately take Teams from being that laptop, that desktop solution, to ultimately being multi-device. You can use up to 5 devices, so you can really play around with whether you're using the one of the Teams phones, those handsets, whether you're using the mobile app, etc. So you've got that absolute flexibility, and that flexibility is not just for the whole business. That is every single individual user can ultimately decide what works best for them. So you might have someone who likes using a handset, but then you might have someone who hates using a handset. So you can absolutely be flexible, whether it's a headset, handset, etc. Around that. All analytics for Teams. So one thing I didn't show you in the demonstration, which is embedded into the Teams Admin Center, there is some level of reporting that you can obtain that gives you detail of call duration, what calls have been made, what number was presented, who they called, etc. Ingoing, outgoing. You can get all of the data, put it into Excel, put it into Power BI. You can absolutely do that. What I'm going to show you here is how you can get a more bespoke reporting system that you can overlay onto Teams. Just in a nutshell, just to give you some ideas of what it can do, is it can give you detail on ultimately users. So how many users have made calls, how many answered, unanswered, abandoned, how many calls have been transferring. So is Ricky just receiving all the calls and transferring them to Eve to answer? You can start to see, individual user performance. All of these wallboards are customizable. So you could build a report for the sales team, the accounts team, the cleaning team, whatever it may be. You can absolutely build customizable reports. And the guys at CSG can help that. You can build reports on different call queues. So your auto attendant, you press 1 for this, press 2 for that. You can build a report on that. You can build a report on your sales call queue here. So you can really be flexible, and you can start to see like average answer time. So if you're looking at a certain team that it's taken, 7, 8 minutes to answer, then possibly we may need more staff. Possibly we may need to reduce the workload or share workload with other teams. So that's where you can start to get that insight as a business. The top right one is an interesting one. That's what we call the dashboard. So you can ultimately customize dashboards of what is presented, and these can all be presented in a live environment that you can view and see the call performance of groups. So this is something you can overlay as a bolt-on to enhance the reporting capability of your Teams suite, if you wish to do so. Call recording. Some of you in the call recording, depending on the industries and business that you are, you may have call recording for compliance, for mandatory reading, regulation, etc. Some of you may use call recording for dispute resolution. Some of you may use it for monitoring or even training new starters. So call recording can be used in many different means. This call recording that we're going to talk about is compliant call recording. It's Microsoft certified, like the Operator Connect service. So it's ensuring everything is certified end to end. Ultimately, the call recording we offer is in different flavors. But just to give you an insight of what it looks like, there is an app in the Teams environment that could give you kind of that manual pause and resume capability, so you can pause call recordings. Again, you don't have to have that turned on. So if you don't want to give the capability of pausing and resuming call recordings, you can turn that off. But ultimately, it can record all forms of calls. So it can do your internal Teams to Teams calls. It can do your external Teams calls. And it can also do your Teams meetings. So it can, whatever way you're collaborating on Teams, it can record those calls. if you wish. Again, this is where you've got that flexibility. The whole system is customizable. You can choose what bits work for your business, what bits you want turned on, what bits you don't. And CSG will work with you to help deliver that and provide the solution that's right for you. Stored in the UK, etc. You can ultimately retrieve call recordings nice and easily via a desktop platform. What I will say here with that, the retrieval of the call recordings, the call recording platform is superb in terms of retrieving. You can retrieve calls based on date, time, number called, the user. So the user all pulled from your Teams environment, so those names in Teams. You've got so many capabilities of retrieving those call recordings, and that's where we've seen the real improvements. And some of the feedback we've had is that the retrieval of call recordings is much more straightforward than their existing solutions. So again, this platform, as a bolt-on, we can absolutely demonstrate this if call recording is something that you use today, or possibly something that you may think may be useful in the future. And we can share the different packages that we can offer depending on what you need. The bit on the bottom left is slightly different. So the call recording can be analysed. So in the Dubber Premier license, so the top call recording license, you can get things like, it's bridging that AI gap, and it's getting things like transcription, sentiment, tone analysis. So you can start to understand, whether the call started on a negative and then ended in a positive. So you can start to understand, I guess, your staff's interaction with your customers, how that performance is going, whether the customers are leaving happier than when they called in. So it's really clever stuff. I'll be honest, I would shut on this webinar, but you'd be on for another hour, because ultimately it's such a feature-rich solution if you're looking at the top end AI stuff. So again, I always encourage, if you want more, please do reach out to the guys at CSG, and they can absolutely demonstrate this end to end. So that's everything from me. I'm going to hand back over to Eve and Ricky to round off the webinar, but thank you very much for listening to my section on Operator Connect and the value adds.
Thank you so much, Matthew, and thank you everyone for joining and for that. We've had some questions through whilst you've been chatting, so if it's all right, just to give some responses to them. So the first one that was come through is, can we retain all of our existing numbers that we have today on our current system when we move over?
Yes, so any numbers that you have today, whether that be geo numbers, non-geo numbers, 08s, 03s, they can all be retained. They can all sit on the platform. When they're on the platform, ultimately they will be able to be assigned in the Teams admin center to those users. Just to go into a bit around the migration, the porting, that's something that CSG will manage and have been doing with Gamma for many years. So you're in safe hands in that front there.
Amazing. So the second question, if I have an auto attendant on Teams, can this route through to a second auto attendant following the initial chosen option from the caller?
Yeah, so any auto attendants that you have, you can ultimately overlay them. So you could press 1, go to the sales team, and then you might want to go internal sales, external sales. That can absolutely be done. That's ultimately, up to you. And again, just to plug the CSG gap, they will absolutely provide that and build that for you.
Brilliant. And the final question, one for us, and they said, can we have a copy of the slides afterwards? And yes, we're going to be uploading our content to our YouTube channel. So all of our webinars are also on our YouTube channel, where we go into specific products and solutions. So if you ever have any questions regarding that, then pop over to our YouTube. I'll put the link in the chat. There we go. Thank you so much, Ricky. If you want to say a few more words before pop off.
Just a big thank you to everyone for attending today. Obviously Matthew as well for a great demonstration. It's great to see it in action as well on how the system works. But please, anything from this, please come back to us. You can email the account manager or email sales@csgrp.co.uk, and we can arrange a meeting. We can do further demonstrations, just to go into a bit more detail and work with you as a business, just to completely understand, how you want it to look and feel. And we will follow through from start to end and do the full project implementation for you. But for myself anyway, thank you again for everyone. And yes, please keep an eye out for further webinars. Constantly doing webinars on different subjects. So look forward to seeing you all in the near future. And again, thank you, Eve and Matthew, for today's demonstrations.
Before we pop off as well, do you mind if we just cover 2 more questions, Matthew, before you head off, if that's okay?
Yeah.
So we've had one more come through. Are the call-in options available on the mobile phone version, Teams app?
Yeah. So if you're ultimately, the only difference is you're using a different screen to make a call. So absolutely, as long as you have some sort of internet connection, you can absolutely make and receive a call and be part of hunt groups when you're out on the move, in the car, etc. You can do that.
And then, sorry, one more question just before we head off. We are currently looking at other CRMs, such as HubSpot. Does Teams have any contact or CRM integrations currently with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately, as Teams has got so many users of 320 million, lots of CRM platforms have integrated with Teams. So things like HubSpot, Salesforce, they're all out of the box. If you have any platforms that you're using, reach out. We can try and get some videos, documentation of how that integrates and how that looks. But yeah, most of the ones that are common in the industry are absolutely integrated. Some of the ones that may be more bespoke, we can absolutely speak to the vendor and confirm how that can be integrated around that. But most of them do with Teams, in truth.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much for answering those final questions. Fab. Well, that's all from us. And if you have any more questions, please do get in touch with sales@csgrp.co.uk, or if you're already with us, contact your account manager.